Hello, welcome to Echoes of Tomorrow. My name is Marcia Huerta. Thank you to all our subscribers, both older and new, and grace and peace be to you from Him who is, who was, and is to come. At Echoes of Tomorrow, we examine prophecies of end day events through the books of Daniel and Revelation. This approach is employed by the Historicist school of thought. We also compare interpretations from the other two schools of thought, futurism and preterism. Presently, the prevailing doctrines of eschatology, the end day events, are dispensationalism in the futurist school of thought and supersessionism. In every show, we endeavor to adhere to the admonition in Revelation to the church of Laodicean, where we are to buy gold tried in fire. This was the subject of our first video with the title Gold Tried in Fire. The conclusion was that the gold tried in fire is doctrine, truth. Think about this. The New Testament has been studied for 2,000 years, yet through much of that time, Revelation could not be understood, simply because certain events and times had not yet occurred. Times had to unfold, so we say Revelation is progressive. We're fortunate enough to live in a time when prophecy can be reconciled to times past. The past is always present. We are given a timeline through the rise and fall of kingdoms. Prophecy fulfilled and proper doctrine is the gold we are here to seek and buy. Today's video, the 10 horns on the beast in Revelation, talks about horn powers. In our last video, the mystery of the 7 heads, we spoke of 3 beasts, the dragon, the beast of the sea, and the scarlet-colored beast. These particular 3 were unique from the other beasts mentioned in Revelation because all had 7 heads and 10 horns. We'd like to remind you that one of the first steps in understanding Revelation's prophecy is to define symbols. We spoke of the how-to do this in our video, The Woman in the Wilderness, Part 2. In that lesson, we learned that one thing may be represented by several forms. For instance, the dragon is also Satan, Daniel's little horn power behind the beast of the sea, and the 8th beast in Revelation. Kingdoms can be represented by mountains, heads, horns, and crowns. So our question today then is, if both heads and horns represent kingdoms, how do the heads on the beast differ from the horns? Jerry will explain this.
Welcome to Echoes of Tomorrow. Before we proceed on the 10 horns on the beast in Revelation, I want to do a slight review of our past video. One of the key passages that we brought forth in that video was from Revelation 17:9 through 11. As we read in Revelation 17:9 through 11, this calls for a mind with wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman is seated. They are also 7 kings, 5 of whom are fallen. One is, and the other has not yet come. And when he does come, he must remain only a little while. As for the beast that was and is not, it is an 8th, but it belongs to the 7, and it goes to destruction. From the English Standard Version, which we cited in our last video. Revelation uses the literary device of appositives, renaming the 7 heads, 7 mountains, and then 7 kings. We also know this from Revelation 13:3 that says, one of the heads was wounded unto death, which means it has a period in where it was and is not. Now, each of the fallen kings in Revelation 17:10 was and is not from John's point of view. which is the time that the sixth king or head reigns, insomuch as kings reign or have a time in which they hold power over dominion. Again, Revelation 17:10 means that 5 kings held power over a dominion that ended before the time of the sixth king, just like the beast that was and is not from John's point of view. This evidence proves the beast that rises out of the bottomless pit is one of the 5 kings who have fallen from John's point of view. In essence, the beast that rises from the bottomless pit cannot be the 6th or the 7th king, but must be one of the 5 kings or heads that reigned before the time of the 6th king, because it was and is not, while the 6th king is. Furthermore, Revelation 13 tells us it's the beast that rises out of the sea that's the head that is wounded and revives. Reading from Revelation 13, starting in verse 3, one of the heads seems to have a mortal wound, but its mortal wound was healed, and the whole world marveled as they followed the beast. John proceeds in verse 11, then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. It exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence, and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. The first beast in the context that John is referring to is the beast that rises out of the sea. So it's the beast that rises out of the sea that is wounded and revived, which proves the identity of the sea beast and the scarlet beast that was and is not are the same entity, only at different times. Revelation 13 illustrates the time when the beast rises out of the sea to begin its reign, while Revelation 17 represents a time it is wounded and waiting to rise out of the bottomless pit. According to the Old Testament, the term pit symbolized death. In Isaiah 38:18, we read, "From the grave cannot praise, for the grave cannot praise thee, death cannot celebrate thee. They that go down into the pit cannot hope for thy truth." The first beast in Revelation 13 rises from the sea to begin its reign, while the scarlet beast rises from the bottomless pit with its deadly wound healed. This vindicates that Revelation 13 and 17 are in chronological order. So when we use Daniel to interpret Revelation, we find that Daniel's 4th beast is renamed the dragon in Revelation 12. And Daniel's little horn is renamed the beast that rises out from the sea, making it the 5th head. It naturally follows that the 6th head is the beast that rises from the earth, and the image is the 7th. Between Daniel and Revelation, we can account for all 7 heads when we understand that the 10 horns help us interpret the beast. A big part of the mystery of the 7 heads is revealed in grasping that Daniel and Revelation complement each other in revealing the time of the end. Before we proceed with the 10 horns on the beast, we must expose the preterist and dispensationalist fallacies pertaining to the beast and the heads, which causes them to deny the chronological order of Revelation 13 and 17. The preterists hold Revelation 13 represents the healing of the beast, while chapter 17 represents a time before its healing, holding that the chapters are not in chronological order. Preterist Daniel Moraes promotes the view the 7 heads are in this specific order that we talked about. In Revelation 13:3, the beast is said to have a fatally wounded head. This head is the 6th head, Nero Caesar, who committed suicide in AD 68. Nero was the last ruler of the Caesar family dynasty. He goes on, as implied in Revelation 13:3, the beast dies with Nero and resurrects with Vespasian. Thus, the Caesars Galba, Ortho, and Vitalis are not heads on the beast. Therefore, Vespasian may be both the 7th head and the 10th horn. Once again, from Dallas Moraes in his Preterist commentary online. Preterists such as Moraes fail to grasp the mystery of the 7 heads. It's not the 6th head that was revived, but the 5th. If the heads began with Julius Caesar, then the 5th head was Claudius Caesar, which doesn't agree with their interpretation the revival of the head was the Flavian dynasty. Dispensationalists also make the mistake the evidence that it's the fifth head that is revived. Dispensationalist John Wolford also makes the sixth head as the one that is revised in Revelation 13. Citing from Wolford, we read, "The scarlet beast is the same one described in 13:1, where the beast is the revived Roman Empire. The situation here described is apparently prior to the time that is described in Revelation 13, where the beast has already assumed all power and has demanded that the world should worship its ruler as God. The situation, therefore, seemingly is the first half of Daniel's 70th week." He goes on. "Of these 7 regal mountains, John is told, the 5 are fallen, dead, passed away, their day over. The one was standing at the moment, was then in sway and power. The other is not yet come, and when it shall come, it must continue a little while. What regal mountain then was in power at the time John wrote? There can be no question on that point. It was the Roman Empire. Note that Wolford interprets the situation of the women sitting on the sixth head or keen as the final week in Daniel's 70th week, which dispensationalists believe is in our future, but fallaciously tries to hold that the sixth keen was the ancient Roman Empire. How does the future harlot Babylon sit on the ancient Roman Empire? Such notions are absurdity and a failure to interpret the scriptures. The preterists and dispensationalists fail to recognize the absurdity of their claims when they fail to realize that the beast that rises out of the pit was before the sixth king. How can a future revived Roman Empire come before the ancient Roman Empire? How does the Emperor Titus, the 10th emperor, come before the 6th Emperor Nero? All this is merely the wood, hay, and stubble of 1 Corinthians 3, verse 12. In our previous video, we revealed that God used the literary device of prolific language to show John the future judgment of the harlot Babylon in chapter 17, and that the sixth king actually reigns in our time, not in John's time. Acknowledging the use of the literary device does not lead to fallacious assertions. A prolepsis is a literary device that symbolizes a future act or development as if it were already accomplished or current. And the symbolism of the 10 horns also vindicates that chapter 17 is a prolepsis. As we mentioned, the only beast with 10 horns in Daniel 7 is the fourth beast, which is why the beast in Revelation with the 10 horns must commence with Daniel's fourth beast, the ancient Roman Empire, that stood before the woman, which was ready to be delivered in Revelation chapter 12. In Revelation chapter 12, verse 3, we read, "And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems." In Revelation 12, the heads don the crowns to signify the time prior to the 10 toes in Daniel chapter 2, or the 10 horns in Daniel chapter 7. Again, Revelation 12 conveys the time the dragon stood before the woman that was ready to be delivered, which was 1st century Rome. The 10 horns are prophesied to arise out of the Roman Empire. In Daniel 7:24 we read, "As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings shall arise, and another shall arise after them. He shall be different from the former ones, and shall put down 3 kings." Daniel states, out of this kingdom 10 kings arise. The kingdom he's referring to is the fourth kingdom, the ancient Roman Empire, not a future revived Roman Empire. The illustration that the crowns shift and the horns don the diadems in chapter 13 represents the time the Roman Empire ends and the 10 kings reign and give their power and authority over to the beast that rises out of the sea. In Revelation 13:1 we read, "And I saw a beast rising out of the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems on its horns and blasphemous names on its heads." As we saw in our last video, the dragon, the ancient Roman Empire, gives the beast that rises out of the sea its power, his throne, and great authority. And the crowns and the horns represent they have power and authority along with the beast from the sea. It's apparent that the power from the sea, it's apparent that the power that and authority of the 10 horns is given over to the beast that rises out of the sea. Since authority is given to the beast over every tribe and people and language and nation. We read in Revelation 13:7. And it was allowed to make war with the saints and to conquer them. And authority was given over every tribe and people and language and nation. Of course, it's talking about the beast that rises out of the sea. At the time the ancient Roman Empire gives the sea beast its power and his throne and great authority, the 10 horns must submit to the authority also, or in essence give their power and authority over to the beast, according to chapter 13, verse 7. But the beast's authority and power come to an end when it's wounded, or that it was and is not in chapter 17, which is why the diadems are not mentioned in the description of the wounded beast. In Revelation 17:3 we read, "And he carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw the woman sitting on a scarlet beast full of blasphemous names, and it had 7 horns and 7 heads, and 10 horns." So we see there are no diadems mentioned in chapter 17. Nevertheless, the authority of the 10 horns is restored again along with the beast when it rises from the pit. In Revelation 17:12 and 13 we read, "And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but when they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast. These are of one mind, and they hand over their power and authority to the beast." The passage is speaking of the revival of the head that is wounded, which affirms that the power that it had with the 10 horns before it was wounded is restored. Again, the illustrations of the 10 horns and the shifting of and disappearance of the diadems supports the chronology of chapter 13 and 17. Such evidence reveals that the series of the beast in Revelation starts with Daniel's 4th beast, which is the only one with 10 horns or keys. And it's affirmed in Daniel 7:24 that 10 keys or horns come out of Daniel's 4th beast, the ancient Roman Empire, not some future revived Roman Empire. As Revelation 17:10 affirms, it's not the 6th or the 7th head that is revived, but the one that is revived is the 5th one. The little horn is the head that is revived in accordance with both Daniel and John. Daniel's 4th beast is renamed the dragon in Revelation 12 through the literary device of appositance. Daniel's little horn is renamed the beast that rises out of the sea and is the 5th head, making the 6th head the beast that rises out of the earth and the image the 7th. Between Daniel and Revelation, we can account for all 7 heads. The big part of the mystery of the 7 heads is revealed in grasping that Daniel and Revelation complement each other in revealing the time of the end. One of the most significant proofs of the chronology of Revelation 13 and 17 is the evidence that the beast that rises from the sea has 42 months to exercise its authority until it's wounded, while the revival only allows for an hour to exercise its authority. This we find stated in Revelation 13:5, "And the beast was given a mouth uttering haughty and blasphemous words, and it was allowed to exercise authority 42 months. In Revelation 17, verse 12, we read, "And the 10 horns that you saw are 10 kings who have not yet received royal power, but when they are to receive authority as kings for 1 hour together with the beast." It's obvious the events of chapter 13 precede those of chapter 17. Due to the longer period must precede the shorter. I hope I said it's obvious that the events in chapter 13 precede those of chapter 17. I might have made a mistake there. Due to the longer period that must precede the shorter. To identify the little horn or the fifth head, one must look at the history of the fallen Roman Empire, not the fall of just one of the emperors or the future Roman Empire. We must look for an entity at the end of the Roman Empire that receives power and authority from the kings that supplanted the fallen Roman Empire. The mystery of the seven heads begins with grasping the evidence that the final manifestation of Satan's power is the revival of the fifth head or king, which is in our past, while the sixth king reigns now. We will continue to show the failures of the preterists and the dispensationalists to interpret Daniel and Revelation in future videos on Echoes of Tomorrow.
We discovered gold today. Revelation maps out human time to point the way to Yeshua's imminent return. Maps have indicators, and indicators are expressed through symbols, which identify time. We are to know the times in which we live. But the question we ask today, how do the heads on the beast differ from the horns? Well, we learned that the heads are specific empires, whereas the horns, sovereign nations. The crowns tell us the status of the particular kingdoms, whether they are acting in authority or if they have fallen out of power. There is lots to know. We hope you come back and continue to join us. But before I leave, I would like you to join our family in prayers for the persecuted church in China and Nigeria. Americans do not know that kind of evil on that level. The community in Kaduna, Nigeria, needs powerful prayers as the pastor of the United Church of Christ was shot and 20 church members abducted. This was the second recent attack on them. And if you're more interested in the subjects that we cover here on Echoes of Tomorrow, we have 2 books for sale on Amazon. Thy Kingdom Come, Reevaluating the Historicist Interpretation of Revelation, and The Four Horsemen and the Merchants of Revelation, both with Jerry and Marsu's name on it. If you have garnered some gold from this video, please give us a like and share. We're interested also in what you have to say about these topics. Please say it in grace. You're also invited to subscribe. Thank you for joining us. Vaya con Dios.